Hello and welcome to the Miss Rolling In podcast. As usual, my name is Jacob Staten, and as usual, I'm joined by JJ Armstrong.
Keep spitting
JJ,
bars.
how are you?
As I said last week, that gets more annoying. I'm pretty sure most people that have just clicked on this or listened to this have just turned off immediately. You're dwindling our numbers. That is so annoying.
Easy win, mate. Easy win for this fight back. Easy win. How are you anyway? You okay?
I am radical as always. Another great few days to be a Forest fan. Feel like we're on cloud nine at the minute. How are you doing?
Yeah, top of the shop, mate. Thank you. Top of the shop. Before we dive into what's put us on cloud nine, JJ, what are you supping back on? What are you hydrating with?
Staying very hydrated because I'm being boring and I'm back to water again. Had a week where I thought I'm going to be crazy, I'm going to be rambunctious, I'm going to drink beer, but I've gone back to water, which is boring, but you know, liver kick in. We say it all the time. Got to keep myself fresh. What about you? Is another silver tinny for you?
No, I've mixed it up.
Ooh.
And I went to my good lady wife went to Lidl today, and I said, pick me something up, and she picked me up a random one called a Yeasty Boy.
Nice.
So I'm going to give this a go.
Great sound. It's a great sound.
Boy.
That's what we want to hear. Review. Give us out of 10. Out of 10, what we're saying. I mean, this is not a Forest podcast anymore. We've spent a few minutes just talking nonsense, but out of 10, what we're saying.
Delish. That's an 8. That's an 8 out of 10. That easy money.
Wow.
Treat yourselves, guys. Treat yourselves.
Welcome to the Miss Rolling podcast, sponsored by Lidl.
diving head first into the most audacious transfer of this window. We're talking Jay Lings, aren't we? That's what we're talking.
We are talking
Jesse Lingard on a free transfer. By all accounts, if you listen to TalkSport, he's on £450,000 a day.
More.
Upsetting West Ham fans. It's a huge move, JJ. It's a huge transfer. It's a huge statement. There are obviously huge risks involved. Where do you sit on the fence? Do you see this as a huge piece of business, a huge risk, or a huge flop?
Not a risk at all. I am not on the fence on this. I'm firmly on the other side, TikToking with Jay Lings on the other side of the fence. I think, firstly, I want to say I fully expected to have this next episode be us going, we were linked with Jay Lings, but he went to West Ham. That was a bit of fun, wasn't it? It's pretty wild that we're here today and he is a Forest player. It was real. It did happen. Love that. But yeah, I'm firmly in the Jay Lings camp. I think it's not a risk at all. It's a 1-year deal, which I think is smart. It would have been nice if we had an option to extend that. It doesn't sound like we do, but you can't criticise it. It's a few million given it. We don't know his wages. I think, like you've said, the reported wages are apparently astronomical, but Cooper did come out after the Notts County game and say that some reports are miles off. So who knows how much it actually is, but in the grand scheme of things, it is just a few million. And if he plays an integral part to us getting safety in the Premiership, it's a few million well spent. So I can't see the risk at all. It's like I say, a year deal. If we go down, he's on his way. If we stay up, thank you, Jesse. As you were, stay on for another year if you can, if he had a good season. But if he goes his own way, that's it. Like, I just can't see why we've ran into such criticism for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm firmly in the camp of it's a great signing. I think he's going to chip in with some really important goals and assists. He hasn't played regularly enough football. That's probably why he hasn't got a good offer from a bigger team or a more established team. But I don't really see any downsides to it. You know, wages are what they are. There's no transfer fee. Equate that out. On his day, fantastic player. We've seen it for England. We've seen it for Man United. Turns up in big moments. And he brings a huge traction to the club as well. So it's not just playing off the field. I imagine his shirt is going to be one that sells out the most. He's been associated with one of the biggest clubs of all time in Man United for 20 years. So he's a worldwide name. It's not just household; it's worldwide kind of thing. So I don't really see any downsides to it. It looks to me very much like it's the kind of signing where we're saying we're not really planning on being in a relegation battle. To me, they're planning for something else, which is fantastic.
Well, I think that's part of what. Sorry to interrupt your point, but I think that's part of why it's semi-frustrating that we keep hearing that he's only gone to Forest for the money, because it sounds like he's been sold the dream by Cooper and by the Marinakis family. To me, it sounds like he's made a sensible footballing decision and seen a club with ambition. Sure, money plays a big factor into it, of course, but I think he's seen it as a project where he's got ambition. He's going to be the main man. He's going to help keep us up. So money isn't everything. We're not in it for a relegation battle.
No. And I think a key point as well is and I wonder if this was a point of the West Ham thing, he wasn't necessarily going to be guaranteed to be kind of a first team or important player, whereas with us, he's going to be the first name on the team sheet, probably him and Dean Henderson.
Yeah.
And it's, he needs to get games and he needs to hit the ground running if he's going to get on that plane to Qatar for the World Cup. Because, Gareth Southgate does, he does like the favourites, but he does like a man in form as well. So it's, it's a very big possibility for him if he can hit the ground running with us and show some really good form, because he has performed for Southgate in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah. There's a really interesting article on the Players Tribune, I think it was called, where he talks about his battle with mental health and his aspirations and his goals that he set with his brother. His brother had to remind him that he is actually a good player. He had 2 whiteboards that set himself goals when he was at West Ham, and he more than achieved them. So there's more to him than just a TikToker. He's got his own sort of personality, his own battles, but he seems to be a very focused and ambitious individual. So the whole TikTok is an easy narrative. But I mean, even if we were going to go by the face value of him being a TikTok star, his followers on Instagram and TikTok alone are like how many times the size of Forest? So even exposure and getting Forest into the media limelight, we've already seen that happen. If for that, it's a few extra shirt sales. So I just can't see it as a risk at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe from the last podcast, O'Brien and Toffolo are now confirmed. It was one of those ones where it seemed to fall apart and then it all picked up back together, and then somehow Toffolo was signed before O'Brien. Toffolo and O'Brien, I mean, they're both really astute signings in my opinion. I think O'Brien could be a Premier League midfielder. He's definitely a Championship. Toffolo definitely Championship left back. So we're just covering all bases.
I think we
want Richard injured as well.
I think they signed on the day of the last podcast. We might have briefly talked about it,
or maybe the morning after. I think maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But O'Brien's definitely the more interesting one. I'm glad we've got Toffolo now that, like you said, Richards is injured. I think in the last episode we mentioned there was a rumour of him having a leg break. Wasn't quite that. It was a hairline fracture. Yeah. So he is going to be out for a while, but it's not drastic. But we've got Toffolo in. Maybe we might need another to cover that. But O'Brien's the main one. I think he looked quite good in his first showing at Union Berlin. So yeah, good. Just all round good signing. Great recruitment as per.
Yeah. And then heavily linked with, we're expecting the deal to be done probably before this podcast even goes out, but for Orel Mangala from VfB Stuttgart, around £12.5 million, €15 million, something like that. Central midfielder. So that to me seems to be the nail in the coffin in the any hope of James Garner. Especially when I mentioned that we're also linked with William Carvalho from Real Betis, which is just, I don't know, a mind-boggling one. People might remember him from winning the Euros with Portugal. I want to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. That's that one.
I don't actually know about William Carvalho. So for people that are in the same camp as me, why are you so excited by William Carvalho? Why is that so mind-blowing? What can we expect from him?
He was kind of like a child prodigy, like the next Claude Makelele type thing. He didn't quite work out to that level. He was at Sporting Lisbon. He was linked with a number of big clubs. I think Arsenal was one of the ones he was always linked with. He's a huge fan favourite on Football Manager as well. I know that doesn't actually mean anything. But yeah, he's been at Real Betis now for a few seasons. He's played really well. I think they won the Copa del Rey last season. Obviously the Spanish version of the FA Cup. So yeah, signing him is a seasoned, he's played in Europe, defensive midfielder. That's a really astute signing. But again, another nail in the James Garner coffin for me. And we may not see so much of Jack Colback and Cafu this season, which, visually a bad thing, but probably for on-field performance is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've both got a part to play, be it in the cup or as a squad member. So
Colback is left back cover as well.
Yeah, we've got left back cover. So I don't think we'll never see them in a Forest shirt again. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to break into that squad. I also don't want to say no to Garner. I still got slight feeling that we're going to. Yeah. It seems like we're pretty well equipped in central midfield if we get these two in. But who wouldn't also want James Garner?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're also linked with James McAtee from Man City. Usley in Villarreal.
That was a random one that came out today. Can't say I know much about him. He's obviously a young player. It's going to be on loan. I mean, like I've said, don't know anything about him, so this could be the worst take ever. He could be the next Phil Foden, who I don't even know what position he plays, but just feels like a bit of a waste of a loan spot. Where does he play, Jacob? Tell me.
He's another off the Phil Foden production line. So him, right? Cole Palmer. I think he sits in a bit more. I think he can even play at left back sometimes as well. So maybe that's an appeal. I think I have seen him play at left back for Man City as well, like on the odd occasion when we've needed it. But he's another one off the Phil Foden production line. Yeah. If he came, I think he'd be really good. I think we've got bigger fish to fry in that last loan spot. So
yeah. Well, what I've essentially done is be a typical Forest fan and not seen a player kick a ball and say, no, they're not right for us. What a waste of a loan spot. So I've essentially just been a Forest fan. There you go.
Yeah. And last on the linked list is none other than Morgan Gibbs-White, which is a peculiar one because we've been linked with MG Dubs for what feels like forever since we won the playoff final. It's at one point it seemed like a certainty. Then Everton came in and fucked everything up. Oh, sorry. Everton came in and messed everything up. Then the figures being touted like 30 million, and that's too much for somebody who's not proven in the Premier League, in my opinion. Would love to see him, obviously. And then the rumour doesn't seem to go away, and then you get conflicting stories recently of hearing that it's basically practically done, and then that was from a cricket correspondent to do with BBC.
There's been a few. He also tweeted it, but there's been a few saying he's pretty much in the City Ground as we speak, to Wolves correspondents who are well trusted in the Wolves camp saying that it's not happening. I think the Wolves one, I think they've been briefed by the club, because the thing that makes me think that is the addition of the words "there's never even been contact," because that isn't true. That can't be true. Everton have tried, so it almost feels like that's the club briefing the journalists to get it out to help them in the window, so there's no inflation on what they've got incoming. So I don't know what to make of it. I would love to see him, and for 30 million I would pay that. I think he's a big prospect. I think he'd be really key for us, particularly if Lingard's only on a 1-year deal. I don't know how long this is going to last. Everton came in and ruined it all, but Palace are in the mix as well. So he's got a choice to make. I think the Stevie Cooper draw should sway it, but I can see this one rumbling on for quite a while. But obviously Wolves today have said that Jimenez is out for a few months, so maybe they need his attacking prowess as well, so maybe we won't see him, which would be a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I do at some points wonder if the lack of chances for Wolves in the past has kind of made it so that he doesn't want to stay. That kind of situation. But yeah, it's what I'd like to see done. Maybe not for the money that's been touted, but it's just the longer this transfer window goes on, the more I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, he's got a year left on his contract, I believe. So if he doesn't go now or doesn't sign a new deal, then maybe it's 2 years left. He's either going to go for nothing or relatively cheaper than what they could get this summer. So I guess it's up to Wolves to weigh that up.
I didn't know he only had a year on his contract. In that case, 30 million is absolute nonsense.
That I'm not saying that's true. That could be a lie. It could have a few years left. I don't know. I certainly know it's running out, or he hasn't said he's going to sign a new deal. I can see you frantically Googling away here.
2 years. 2 years left.
I'd guessed at that one as well, so at least we're half right there. But I've not had the best episode this one. I'm just sort of throwing things into the mix that I don't know about. There you go.
If your football knowledge was a football club, it'd be Derby County, mate. So JJ, who do you want? If you are, we're saying Mangala's over the line.
Yeah.
You've got William Carvalho, Morgan Gibbs-White, James McAtee, James Garner,
Cornet,
Maxwell Cornet, Poets Cornet. Feel free to pull a name out of the hat as well and throw it onto the plate. But who would you? We can only sign one more player. One more player, and we get to the end of the month, end to the 1st of September, and we can only sign that one player that you want. Who is that player?
Right, I'll give my real answer first, which is Morgan Gibbs-White. Big fan of him, but we've just spoken about him in depth, so for the interest of being entertaining, he's gone. See you later. Enjoy Wolves, you little rat. When he comes and bangs a load of goals for us, I didn't mean that. It was just a joke. It was just a bit of fun. But I'm sorry. But my other answer would be probably Emmanuel Dennis. I like the sound of him joining Forest. I think after people have watched the Union Berlin game and decided that Awoniyi will never score a goal in his life, don't think it's that deep, but I did think we possibly needed another up front. Obviously, we've got Sam Surridge, who's already shown in the county game that he is such a great finisher. But I think Dennis, watching him play last season, I think he would be a great addition to the squad. So if we could only sign one more and it wasn't Gibbs-White, I think I'd go for Dennis. What about you?
So realistically, same as you, I'm going to say Morgan Gibbs-White. I think we need that player who can play as the 10 or as the almost false 9 Brendan Johnson striker, somebody who can really give us some depth there. But again, in the interest of playing devil's advocate, I can't look past James Garner for no further reason than the fact that I love him to absolute bits, and I hope he never plays for another club ever again.
You are literally number one in the James Garner fan club. Number
37, mate.
He loves him. He loves him. Jacob goes to sleep with James Garner pyjamas on in his James Garner bedsheet.
If only, mate. Only could be that close to his face at night time. So yeah, I mean, we don't need to rehash why James Garner's a budding Forest legend type thing, but yeah, I think him joining us, it'd have to either be on a loan with an
option to buy. Or,
is it an option though, or does it have to be an obligation?
Obligation, you're right.
Obligation. And if it's an obligation, just pay the man.
I guess it's like a loan, innit? Well, literally, it is a loan. But
yeah, bank loan type thing, yeah.
But it's like a deferred payment. You pay it next year. But
can we get Jimmy Garner on tick?
Yeah, let's get the Lecky topped up first and Jimmy Garner next year. Let's do that.
Can we get James Garner? You got James Garner at home.
Hi, Future JJ here. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And yes, I know, I do look like Greener Wormtongue. Anyway, whilst editing this podcast, I've come up with a better joke for a deferred payment for James Garner. Instead, we're going to use the term James Klarner. Clever, right? This is the best joke you'll ever see in this podcast, so feel free to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Now, JJ, you're going to talk to us around our ventures. Talk to us.
Yes, I'm going to go into salesman mode. So, we introduced a few episodes ago that we've launched a new website, which is mistrollinin.co.uk. It's going to be in the description if you're watching, or down in this frame thing that's cycling through. That's a Twitter one. It's randomly cycled for those watching, so we have no control. But mistrollinin.co.uk, we're selling some posters. We've got a wall chart where you can fill in the fixtures for each Premier League game. So hopefully a few wins for Forest in that. At the end of the season, you can frame a completed winning wall chart that documents our chart to European success. We've also got a Wembley poster for sale up there to commemorate our massive playoff victory, which was real and did happen. Unbelievable scenes. And also we've launched a Twitch, which our username is MrRollingPod, where we'll play FIFA and Jacob will absolutely destroy me. We might do the odd post-match analysis. We might do a live podcast, get some guests on, do some FIFA, you know. We're not too sure yet, but just drop us a follow. That's on Twitch. That's MrRollingPod.
One thing is for certain, really, Twitch FIFA games, if you want to watch a fully grown man with the hair of Susan Boyle spit his dummy out repeatedly because he's been beaten by the best person to ever play FIFA ever, please join in. It's going to be hilarious.
Unless from that, I'm taking it you're going to grow your hair, because that doesn't really make sense. But anyway, whatever. Whatever.
The dummy's already spat. We're not even playing. Tremendous. So JJ, another wonderful piece of work that you did was that Instagram post and Twitter post around the who do you want? Who do you, our wonderful listeners and Twitter followers and Instagram followers, who do you want?
Yep.
So JJ, read us some names. Talk to us.
They're all very. There's one name here that I somehow completely forgot, which maybe could have been my answer instead of Dennis, which was Keenan Davis. How did I forget that he existed? But there's a lot of the same names being thrown out here. There's Gibbs-White, there's Davis, there's Garner, there's Cornet. They're the ones that people want to see in. Yeah. The general consensus that we get from this post is that people don't want Ramsey, which we have been linked with him. He's just left Juventus. People are saying they don't want Ramsey. I think he's too old. Some are saying sign him for experience, but quite a few people I've seen on Twitter have said not Ramsey. So that's interesting.
I get the comments on Ramsey. I really do. There is a risk. I mean, any Juve fans will tell you that he's been an empty shirt for them for however long he's been there on £400,000 a week. But I think people are letting that cloud the fact that he was, or certainly has the capacity to be, a phenomenal footballer. Phenomenal. And if he needs fitness to get himself to that World Cup, I mean, obviously he's going to the World Cup. If he had 2 broken legs, he'd still start at the World Cup for Wales. But, you know, if he wants real match fitness, if he stayed injury free for us, you know, that could be a real stroke of genius, as long as things like the wages and other stuff like that are correct. If you know what I'm saying, you know, maybe kind of a lot of incentives for the actual, maybe the minutes rather than games played type thing. But I think, you know, not necessarily saying I want to see it, but I could certainly see a reason why it would be a good move. Would you still take him? Mangala's done, Carvalho's in. Would you still take him? I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't play in the whole. It couldn't be, you know, him be kind of not necessarily a backup, but him and Lings in the 10. So, you know, again, as long as the numbers were right and we weren't having our pants down over somebody who has the potential to sit on a stretcher for 12 months, then, you know, absolutely. But not an imperative signing by any stretch of the imaginations. But he's someone that I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good he was at Arsenal.
Mm. Yeah, many years ago. Obviously, he went on loan to Rangers. Didn't quite do it there. He was injured there as well. So,
what do you mean many years ago? You mean last season?
No, I mean, you said he was a good player, but he was a good player many years ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah.
He went on loan.
I think I say remember when he came on loan to us many years ago.
Well, he did. Ex-Forest legend.
He did. Billy Davis.
Return of the King. Let's get him in. I'm sold.
Shut up and take my money. Speaking of taking money, Union Berlin and Notts County, JJ.
Yeah, money.
Money was taken for shocking streams, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Union Berlin stream was good. If we're talking purely streaming here, that was good. Notts County was free, so I can't complain about that. Let's talk about the performances rather than the streams. Union Berlin saw us play quite a strong side. I was quite interested to see how we were going to fare. I think it was more of a realistic pre-season friendly than the others that we've had. They're a bit ahead of us in terms of their pre-season. I think they go back in the cup very shortly. Yep. And you could tell that they were a bit ahead of us. No outing for Lingard, which upset me. I was excited to see that. Was also excited to see that this Saturday in the Valencia stream, but we'll talk about that later. Fuming. But yeah, Uni Berlin, I feel sort of sorry for the people that travelled out there expecting to see an interesting game and got the customary pre-season bucket load of subs come on. Must have been annoying. A lot of people maybe thought fly out last minute, see Lingard. I don't know, but it was. You can't judge too much in these pre-seasons. A few good moments, a few not so good moments. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I normally try to kind of ignore the actual result in a friendly game and just look for kind of good passages of play.
Yeah.
Which I thought there were a couple in the Union Berlin game. The Hertha Berlin one before that, there definitely was.
Yeah,
definitely was. Notts County scored 2 good goals. It was very much a second. It very much looked like our League Cup team. I think I said to you yesterday, JJ. But yeah, it was just one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think any. Yeah, just kind of take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, let's put it this way: if we were getting, was it Everton who lost 4-0 to Minnesota United? Maybe get a little bit worried about that, especially given the season they had last season. But we're playing unknown entities in Union Berlin who did very well in the Bundesliga last season. County, who probably I didn't see their team, but I'm going to guess they played their first team, and they're playing a local rival, so of course they're going to be up for it. Pinch of salt. So yeah, I suppose on to Valencia. That's going to be an interesting game, I suppose, with it being in the cattle shed itself. Like a nice hot summer's evening. I seem to remember us playing Real Sociedad a few seasons ago on a Friday, and someone say Thiago Silva rattled a crossbar with a free kick. These are the kind of games that if it was at the City Ground, I think I probably would have busted a gut to get there. It's weird kickoff time or not, but yeah, it's just. I think it'd be a great game for anyone who goes, and maybe a great game for someone who can't who's unfortunate enough not to be able to get a ticket to a league game. So, whoever's going to, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's going to be a great kind of spectacle because, Valencia are one of the kind of great Spanish teams as well.
It sounds like it's going to be the introduction of Lingard. He's going to get an appearance, according to Cooper. So, as someone that lives in Leeds that can't be bothered to travel down to Nottingham to get a 6 o'clock kickoff at Meadow Lane, pretty disappointed to see that there's no stream for it. Just having Lingard's introduction alone, you'd think Forest would sell a bucket load of streams if they put it up for a £5. So it doesn't seem like the most sensible decision. Is it because they're trying something new and they don't want people to see it? I don't know, but it just seems like a bizarre decision.
I'm wondering if there will be a stream, and they've said they're not doing it because it hasn't sold out yet.
I hope that's the case. I really do.
We're on the Wednesday before the Saturday when we're recording this, and you can still get tickets, which appallingly are £20 a ticket if you happen to be lucky enough to be an adult, which for pre-season friendly is atrocious.
That might have something to do with why it's not selling, especially when you've got it might be different on Saturday, given that we will be a week away from the Prem, but when you get in the fodder brought in after 60 minutes, it is a bit annoying when you're paying for it.
Week away from Premier League, Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, I hope there's a stream. I think they will have missed a trick not selling streams when Jesse Lingard's about to sort of debut. Make sense, make a load of money, use that to buy Morgan Gibbs-White.
Ooh, absolutely. So I suppose that's a really good point to saunter away on. If you're joining us for the first time, hello and welcome, and thank you for listening. If you're coming back, you're an absolute legend, and thank you very much. You Reds.